Hello. This is a short video to give you an overview of the HTML elements that you can use to give your document structure. And also, we're also going to go over some text or elements that you can use to wrap your text in the HTML document. So first thing first, so as you remember, we have what's called body and head in an HTML document. So only stuff inside the body element will be displayed in the browser window. The head element contains metadata. So that's data about the page, such as the title, such as the link to the style document, and also what kind of viewport you want to use for the document. So those are things that are considered metadata. So here I have Visual Studio Code, and I open an empty folder called lecture. I'm going to make a new HTML file. I'm going to call it structure. Okay, so this is an empty document, and let's generate a basic structure. And this is an autocomplete from Visual Studio, which generates a basic structure for an HTML document. So an HTML document should at least have the HTML tag. So there's an open and close HTML tag. And this is an attribute that says that this HTML document is going to be written using the English language. So EN is just a code for English. And as we talked about earlier, there's head and body. And the head has metadata element. A lot of the metadata elements actually are inside the meta tags. And note as I hover around, it actually will pull references from Mozilla Development Network, which is the reference that we will use a lot in this class. And so let's put our attention to the title. So let's call this sample structure. So this is going to be the title of the window, and the body is going to be stuff inside the window, the browser window. So if I save this, and I'm going to open it with the live server, so the document is open. There is nothing in the window, in the browser window itself, because my body is empty. Whereas since we specify a title that says example structure, it is actually shown up here. So we will populate the body in a minute. Let's go back to the slide. So HTML elements, they are markup. They're not things that you use to style the way the element should look. So if you want to change the font, you want to set certain text to center, you don't use HTML elements or tags. So there are two purposes of using HTML elements. You use it to structure your document. So you separate the text into different headings, different sections, or different articles. So that's structural markup. There are also these things called semantic markup. You want to put emphasis on certain text. You want to quote a certain text, or you want to mark something as an acronym. So there are specific HTML markup for that. And those are just something to say that this text means this is an emphasized section. This means that this particular section is a quotation. It does not specify the formatting. For those of you that have played around with this, you say, well, if I say something is, say, a heading level 1, there is a certain format that comes with it. Yes, that's correct, because your browser actually comes with a certain style, the default style for each one of the markup that you can have in the HTML document. So if you say something is H1, unless you specify a different style, and we will learn how to do that when we learn about CSS, the cascading style sheet, the browser will just use the default style to format how the heading should look like. And as we learned previously, there are different levels of headings. Specifically, there are 6 levels, so you can have H1 through H6, and H1 is the highest level heading, and that's why the default format has the biggest font here. And for text that's not a heading, you can surround the text using the paragraph mark, which is just P. Or if you have an empty paragraph, you can just an empty P tag, which is we talked about earlier. Okay, so we're back in our example HTML document. Let's create an H1, and let's call this heading lorem ipsum. And let's put a subheading. And let's put the actual text now. And let's put word wrap. Okay, so we have one heading 1 and one heading 2. Let's copy this so that we have 2 heading 2 and 2 paragraphs. And let's make a few more paragraphs. And so note that as I'm copying and pasting things, I made sure that the nesting is correct. As you can see here, H1, this is the open tag, that's the closing tag, and this is open tag for H2, closing tag for H2, and this is open and close for P. I don't put it like this. This is wrong. You want things to be nested properly. This is not going to be displayed the way you expect it, because you want all these tags to be properly nested, and they should not interlink with each other. They should be fully nested within each other. So let me fix that. Back to the correct one. And let us view this in live server. And this is our text now. So this is H1, that's the default format for H1, default style for H2. We can look at it using the development tool. So here, you see here, and let's look at the elements and click this. Here you could see that there are style already associated with heading 1. And this is the default style that comes with this particular browser, and this also in this particular Chrome browser, any H1 will have this kind of style. So this is the font size, this is the margins, and so on. Back to our slide. Now, sometimes you want to format certain part of your document differently, and you can use the div element. So this will define that particular section. So it's a division, and you can format that special. Something about this that you should remember that is that the div element is by default going to be a block display. A block display meaning it's going to be separated with blank lines. So let's look at this. So back to our HTML. So I'm going to make this particular text a division. So I'm going to enclose it in the div tag. Remember that this is actually one paragraph. So after I make this particular section its own division, let's see what happened to the display. As you can see here, this becomes its own block, meaning there's a new line separating this block with the text before, and another new line separating it with the text after. If you want to just mark a block of text, but you don't want to make it a block with new lines separating, you can use the span element. So span is kind of like div. You can use it for formatting and to mark things as separate from the rest of the paragraph or text, but it won't insert this new line. So let's look at this. Change this to span. And let's view this again. And as you can see, this is still looking like its own paragraph, one paragraph, but this is actually its own span, and you can define different style for it. If you don't define a separate style for this particular span, it just blends in. But if you actually open it in the development tool, you could see that this is not just one paragraph. There is actually a span of text that you mark as special, and you can apply certain formatting, certain style, or you can do stuff to it later and treat it as one unit. Okay, let's go back to our slide. And one thing to keep in mind is a div element, span element, they can contain other elements as long as they're nested properly, and they can be empty and just like other elements. Now, starting from HTML5, there are these structural elements that will differentiate where's the header of the page, where's the navigation bar, navigation buttons, and where's the main text of the element. And if you have a footer, copyright, contact info, you can put it inside the footer element. And this gives the document even more structure. And this is actually very helpful for tools such as Screen Reader, because Screen Reader will be able to tell, okay, so okay, this document has a heading, and the title of the document will be somewhere in the header in here. And then all the navigation will be under the nav element, and then the main content of the document will be inside the main tag. So this is an example of document that's structured using the HTML tag. So there's the header here. And then you have the navigation element, and then you have the main section that contains the different sections, and there's article. This is actually missing the main tag, and then you have a footer element. So HTML is not very picky. The best practice actually recommends that you also have a main element. So in this case, the section and aside should be enclosed in the main tag. Let's go back to the slides. So if you've used HTML in the past, you may have come across the B and I tag, and in the old days, before HTML5, we use this for formatting. So if you enclose a text within the B tag, then the text will be shown as bold. You enclose text within the I tag, the text will be shown as italic. So let's look at an example here. So let's put something in B here. And put something in I. And save, and let's look at what it looks like in Live Server. Now, you're going to say, well, look at this. This is B, meaning bold, and this is I, meaning italic. Yes. So as of HTML5, the B and I tags, they have different purpose. So so the B tag does not mean bold. It means bring attention. So that's where B comes from. And the I is not italic anymore. It's now an idiomatic text element. But to maintain compatibility with the old style document, browsers have default formatting for those elements, and default formatting for B is going to be bold. Default formatting for I is going to be italic. Now, another thing to remember about HTML document is white space. So any amount of white space will be shown as just one space. So let's go to the document. So if I add a lot of white space here, so there's a huge amount of white space, save it. Let's look at this. So this is our document, and we can make sure we refresh. Our huge amount of white space is only shown as one space. Let's look at this. So it's after lorem ipsum, there's like all this white space. I'm adding more white space, but it's only shown as one space here. So it doesn't matter how many spaces you put. So white space, not just spaces, it includes tabs, it includes new lines as well. So if I put tabs, it's not going to show as spaces as well. And it's still looking the same, regardless of how many spaces I put there. Now, what if I want to add some spaces so that this dollar word is a little bit further away from ipsum? Then you use the non-breaking space, NBSB. So let's add that into our document. Now we are going to have more distance between this lorem ipsum and dolor. So let's look at it. And you can see there's one from the white space, and then there are two non-breaking space, and then there's some more white space, so that's another space over there. So let's look at this. So that's what the original HTML document looked like. So there's one space there, non-breaking space, and a whole bunch of white space that becomes one space. So the distance between this and that is actually 4 spaces, as you see it in the window here. And another thing before we finish this discussion, let's learn how you can add more breaks. So we learned how to add spaces using non-breaking space. You can also add a new line using BR. So that's a line break. So you only use this for thematic break inside your text. You don't want to use it to separate paragraph. So to separate paragraphs from each other, you want to use the P tag, the paragraph tag. And if you want to create a thematic break, a change in topic, so BR is just line break. HR is a bigger break. It's a change in themes, and by default, it actually will create a horizontal line. So in the old day, this means horizontal lines, but now this is used for thematic break. Okay, if you look at our sample document, if I want to add a new line in here, line break in here, then I add BR. And if I want to add a thematic break between the two paragraphs here, I can add the HR. And let's look at what this shows in the browser, and this is what it looks like. So this is the new line, the BR, and this is the HR, the thematic break. And it does show up as horizontal line. Okay, so that's all that I'd like to discuss and emphasize for this section. So this actually corresponds to the structure and text chapters in the book. So if you look at the readings, the corresponding reading for this video is chapter 1 and chapter 2. Bye now.